Right now at 5, the voters decide. Early voting is now underway. And as people head to the polls, Governor Ron DeSantis and opponent Charlie Crist are holding their one and only debate.
You'll be able to watch that debate only right here on CBS 4 at 7 o'clock.
And we have live team coverage for you tonight. CBS 4's Jim DeFede will break down what we can expect from the debate.
But we begin with Ted Scouten with more on where the gubernatorial candidates stand in the latest poll. Ted?
Yeah, Lauren and Elliot, as we go into the last 2 weeks of the campaign, Governor Ron DeSantis has a growing lead in the polls. Now, what that means for Charlie Crist is he has a lot riding on tonight's debate. Today is the first day of in-person early voting across South Florida, but the entire state and nation have their eyes fixed on these two men. Governor Ron DeSantis and Charlie Crist will face off tonight in their only debate before Election Day. As we go into the high-stakes meetup, a poll from Florida Atlantic University finds Governor DeSantis with an 11-point lead over Crist, 51-40.
That's a much bigger number than I think that the Crist campaign would like to see. You want to be within that 3 or 4 points so that you can get a surge at the end. They're going to have to tighten this race up quite a bit so that the same-day voting that happens late has a chance of putting them over the top.
Kevin Wagner is a professor of political science at FAU. He helped conduct the poll. It also found that Florida voters who were questioned give Ron DeSantis a 53% approval rating.
A re-election campaign for a governor is a question to voters of, should we replace the current governor? And when the approval rating for the governor is over 50%, meaning that more than half the people think that he's doing a good job, it's hard to get enough people out there that want to replace him.
As for the big issues on voters' minds, 36% said inflation, 19% are concerned with threats to democracy, and 9% named abortion as their top issue, which was a hot topic a few months back.
What we've seen as we've gotten closer to November is that a lot of the focus has switched away from that issue and more towards economic issues, especially inflation, which seems to be a very important issue to many Floridians.
And that debate gets underway in about 2 hours. It begins at 7 o'clock and lasts for an hour. Live in Fort Pierce, Ted Scouten, CBS 4 News.
Ted, thank you. And our team coverage continues with CBS 4's Jim DeFede, host of Facing South Florida. He is also attending tonight's debate in Fort Pierce.
And Jim, what will you be watching for Governor DeSantis to be doing tonight?
I think that, these elections are often referendums on what you think the governor has done over the course of his 4 years. So he'll be making the case as to why he deserves another 4 years, but more importantly, what he's done for the state. Expect to hear him use the word freedom or free many, many times tonight. How he kept the state free, how he kept the state open, how he kept businesses going. You'll hear a lot from him about his education plan, the fact that he was able to give raises to teachers. You're going to hear him talk about his support for law enforcement. Those are the things that he's going to hit on. He doesn't have to go after Charlie Crist. He doesn't have to attack his opponent. That's not necessary. He can just sort of try to make the case that he's the right person for this job. And the only real question is whether or not people think that that's the truth or whether or not he's got ambitions for something else.
All right, Jim, so you say DeSantis doesn't need to attack Crist, but let's look at the flip side. What does Crist need to do in order to make headway with voters, because he's got some ground to make up?
Ground is an understatement. There's a possibility that I feel like almost saying that there's almost too much ground for him to make up at this point. So this is really going to be a chance for Charlie Crist to try to draw some comparisons between himself and the way he would govern versus Ron DeSantis. But I got to tell you, the Crist campaign has not been in a good place for the last couple months. I mean, just even more recently, its campaign manager having to be fired because of domestic violence allegations. I mean, this is a campaign that is floundering. Not even getting into the issue of the money differential, the fact that Ron DeSantis has raised $170 or more million, and Charlie Crist is working with less than a tenth of that amount. But for Charlie Crist, I don't know that he can go on the attack the way Val Demings did in her campaign, because attacking others isn't really Charlie Crist's brand. It doesn't read well when Charlie Crist tries to attack other people. So, but I'm not sure nice guy Charlie Crist is going to be enough for this time around.
Yeah, this may be his last opportunity, so we'll be watching very closely. Jim, thank you very much.
All right, and speaking of Charlie Crist, he will get some campaign help from President Joe Biden. President Biden will attend a fundraising reception for Crist in Fort Lauderdale next Tuesday, 1 week before Election Day. He will also rally for Democrats while he is in the state.
Early voting runs through November the 6th. Polling locations are open from 7 to 7 in Broward and Miami-Dade counties. In Monroe, they are open 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. For a list of early voting locations and to see those times again, just go to our website, cbsmiami.com.
And meanwhile, Florida is already reporting more than 1.1 million vote-by-mail ballots returned. That's about a quarter of all the ballots requested. Of those, 89,000 are from Broward, 107,000 are from Miami-Dade, and 5,000 are from Monroe County. The state attorney's office wants voters to know that the voter protection hotline number has been activated. It directs callers to the election response team and task force, which makes sure that early voting sites remain free of any improper or illegal activity.
And want to remind you again, your only chance to see gubernatorial candidates Charlie Crist and Ron DeSantis debate is tonight at 7, and you can see it only right here on CBS 4. You can also stream it on our streaming network, CBS News Miami, or on our website, cbsmiami.com.